Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, and now I'm going to be going through zombie films, and I figured why not start from the beginning with the one that really started it all, gave us the modern zombie as we know it. George Romero's 1968 Night of the Living Dead. And yeah, this is just a shitty DVD I have because it came with a t-shirt that sadly I don't even have anymore. But Night of the Living Dead, absolute classic. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's actually my favorite of all the George Romero films, even more than Dawn of the Dead. Not by much, but yeah. And I mean, what can be said about this that hasn't already been said? The alternate title is Night of the Flesh Eaters. Living Dead sounds much better. Of course, it was written by George Romero and John A. Russo. And I know George Romero has very particular views on society and, the country and everything. I know he was very big into the 60s, and he was kind of mad that the 60s didn't turn out the way he had hoped. This doesn't really reflect that, but it does reflect some stuff that was going on at the time. Of course, it came out in 1968, which I'll get into. But perhaps the thing I love the most about this is it's just a very simple story. I mean, it opens up with a brother and sister going to a cemetery, put flowers on their father's grave. I can't remember the name of the guy that plays Johnny. I actually think he was someone from behind the scenes too. He might have been a producer or something. But Judith O'Dea plays Barbara. And every scene from the cemetery all the way to the end is iconic. I mean, they're in the cemetery and he's sort of teasing her like when they were kids, like saying, "They're coming to get you, Barbara." And then we see that first zombie just start walking along the cemetery and he attacks them. Judith O'Dea as Barbara, she ends up at this farmhouse where I think the house is really creepy. It's just like, how would anyone live there? It's almost like a Chainsaw Massacre house. So, like, it's kind of hard to explain. But, owners of the house are dead. Zombies just keep coming out. Of course, in this, they were called ghouls, not zombies. And then Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, comes in. And I've mentioned in a video before where I talked about like my favorite horror movie heroes or protagonists, and he was in my top 5. Because a lot of the social commentary it was crazy back then for a filmmaker to take a black man and make him not only the protagonist, but like the hero of the movie. And there's parts where Barbara, this white blonde woman, is in hysterics. He has to like slap her. He's the only one in the movie that thinks rationally. He's the only one that gets shit done. Because that was the height of the civil rights movement. So it was considered a bold ass move to do that, and I think George Romero did it very well. Dwayne Jones, I think, did a great job. He's one of my favorite horror movie heroes. It even makes the ending that much more of a bummer. Of course, it's one of those movies. It takes place more or less in one area, and just more and more things unfold. Like eventually, there's like this married couple with a daughter, and then this other couple that had been hiding in the basement the whole time. And of course, a running theme throughout Romero's films is that even though zombies are happening, it's humans that are their own undoing. The fact that people just can't get along, they fall apart no matter what. It's all because, Mr. Cooper, the white guy who wants to shack up in the basement where it's safer, and Ben, the black guy, says that's crazy. It's a death trap. You got nowhere to go. And, they butt heads a lot. And there's even a part where Ben beats him up. He beats up a white guy. And for a movie back then to do that, it was really crazy, but I think it was done very well. The zombies, I think, look great. I mean, they're not as advanced, like, makeup wise, but they look good enough. I mean, I love the look of them. And then also, like, when they actually eat the young couple because they try to get to a gas pump and the truck explodes. There's just this very eerie, like, sci-fi horror music, just like, boom, boom, as they're eating flesh. I just, and it's black and white with, like, very natural lighting. So I imagine this movie fucked people up back then. I can see why it's always considered a classic. It's with that music, that imagery, with that natural lighting at nighttime. And then it's just more and more ways of how these people undo themselves. Like the married couple, they have a young girl who was bitten. Of course, at this point, they don't know what happens if you get bit. But, she turns into a zombie. She kills her mother with, like, a little hand gardening tool, which also proves that zombies can kill with implements if they have to. And then just the whole thing with at the end when the zombies are just coming through the house and Ben finally goes down to the basement, and the thing is, he survives. The black man made it through the ordeal. But then, of course, you get all the cops and the town rednecks together, just killing zombies. They just look through a window and they see this guy coming out of the basement. They think he's a zombie, so they just shoot him. Then you get all these creepy photos with eerie music of them throwing him on the fire with the rest of them, over the end credits. It really is a bummer because you really root for this guy. He's the only smart one in the movie. Great hero. And this really sets up a lot of things that would just become zombie lore. Like, you have to destroy the brain. And, they eat flesh. They come back from the dead. Of course, some things would change over time. Like, John A. Russo went on to create Return of the Living Dead. That's his spin-off. Where zombies want to eat brains. And, of course, you have, like, the infected. Like, infection zombies, like 28 Days Later. But it all stems from this. I mean, there were zombie movies before this, like White Zombie with Bela Lugosi and stuff like that. But they weren't really flesh eaters like they are in this. Like, Romero really revolutionized the whole genre. And I can't praise this movie enough. And I love the fact it's black and white. I think that just adds to it even more. It's just such a classic movie. Every once in a while, like, if I can't think of anything to watch, I'll just pop this in and I'll get sucked in every time. I love movies that take place in, like, one setting. Yeah, Night of the Living Dead, such a great movie. It's a horror masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. I love this. Anyway, that is George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, so stay tuned for more zombie reviews. Thank you.